Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time for joining us tonight. Where I'm Adrian Ng, your host for tonight, and tonight we are gonna run something a bit more special. Uh, while we have the Kenanga oil and gas sector outlook, where we learn to ride the wave, we also managed to invite our gorgeous colleague on board, which is Miss Isabel, and of course the pro in the oil and gas sector, my colleague Sin Kiat, which is a CFA holder. I mean, that tells you a lot, right? So, and a little bit more about Isabel is she have a thing for finance and personal finance. I think three of us here share the same passion. That's why sometimes at home I will pray money, money home, money home a bit. But without further ado, I will start the session. But before that, I will steal a bit of Sinket's time to share a bit on what we have for you guys from Kenanga. By the way, three of us are all licensed by SC, and yeah, we're quite safe. All right. So I just wanted to share with you guys. Recently, checking SC's website, right? And I stumbled on this investment tracker. Semak sebelum labur, jangan kasih lebur. So I was quite curious to see if I'm legit, and I typed my name there, and yeah, that's my IC's name. So yeah. Oh, well, my details. So if you want to know a bit more about myself, this is my current, and that's my past. I mean, let's not delve too much in the past, right? And as we deal with investment, I think it's always safe to be safe. Better to be safe than sorry. It's best to check on if the people that are speaking is regulated, properly regulated. I mean, I don't mind if yeah. And yes, this is the thing that you need to check. Regulated activities, investment advice. Yeah, that goes the same for Sinket. All right. After that, I'm going to talk a bit on KDI. For those that are not aware of this, we have this KDI safe that gives you about 4% return. It's a cash product. So when you have nothing much, not much use on temporary on your cash, you can actually look into it.
Sorry, Adrian. Sorry to interrupt. I think there's someone mentioning that there's no volume or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Hold on. Thank you for double checking. Mic test, mic test. Can you guys hear me? Loud and clear. Okay, thanks, Christopher. I'd love to meet you in person soon. Yeah. Sorry about that, Jit. Can you hear me, Jit? Yeah. So let me hop in back into the sharing of these slides. Not slides. So you can actually ponder that this all on the website digitalinvesting.com.my. Other than that, we have discretionary financing. For those that are more savvy in the market and know how to time themselves and is quite a uh, not quite a trader, you can actually leverage on this, extend your contract period up to T8, and yeah, it's called discretionary financing. And for those that have too much shares in their account and don't know what to do with it, you can actually ring us on securities borrowing and lending. Depending on demand, we will have some that stocks that could give you very good interest rates apart from just dividend. So yeah, these are some of the details. And the most exciting thing that I want to talk about is this year we are into the year of the dragon, and the more reason that you should take into account of the dragon. And we have this. It's called the Naga warrants. Wow. I just watched Mortal Kombat yesterday, by the way. It's quite cool, right? And yeah, Naga warrants. So what is so special about tonight is we have Isabel that is going to share with us a little bit more on this end of the world. Her Naga scanner matrix and a bit more at Naga Edu. And she have won numerous awards by educating the crowd, right? Even myself, like, I mean, I get schooled sometimes by her. And last but not least, we have this channel that allows you to actually check on your dividends announcement and also financial, and sometimes watch list and stock trading ideas. It's called Kenanga Trade to Win on Telegram. Okay, I think I take too much of time. I shall start with the session. I mean, Sin Kiat is getting a bit annoyed with me already. All right, oil and gas outlook. Today's agenda will be on the oil price outlook and why should we look at the upstream services and services where should we focus our attention on, and the overall sector outlook. Sin Kiat, I'll leave I pass the floor to you, and if you need me to change the slide, you can just point out to me next. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Adrian. A bit nervous because it's my first time doing
Me
this
too.
online, Yeah, I think Adrian has outlined the agenda pretty clearly. We'll first talk about the oil price outlook. And of course, within the oil and gas market, we have three main segments: upstream, midstream, and also downstream. So I think the angle is we believe that for 2024, this will be the year for upstream services. So we will go to why we look at upstream services and all that. Why not downstream? Why big cap or why small cap? So these are the things that we will discuss as we go along the slides. So maybe we should go to the next slide.
All right.
Yeah. So just to give very rough background, upstream, midstream, and downstream. So in local market for Malaysian oil and gas, right? We mainly focus on upstream services and upstream oil producers on the left side. If you look at the slide, so a lot of the companies, a lot of names that you saw like Hibiscus, Usma, Icon, Dayang, Dilium, Perdana, Armada, Yinsen, they are all in the upstream. So what happens is within this upstream, there's also a lot of subsectors, right? You have the oil producers, you have the service providers servicing the oil producers. So in a way, it's a very interesting dynamic because it's not all just driven by oil price purely.
Okay.
The service contractors, the revenue will be mainly driven by the capex by the oil producers, right? And the oil producers, their capex will be indirectly driven by the outlook on the crude oil price, i.e. maybe the next 1 or 2 years. And then if you look at the midstream, right? Midstream is a very big thing to say because midstream is connecting between upstream and downstream. So basically, they handle the logistics of the whole oil and gas sector. So namely pipelines. So you own the pipeline, you send oil from the offshore oil field, right? You send it to the onshore facility. So the pipeline is also considered midstream. And then of course storage. Because when you want to buy and sell oil, right, you can't just deliver immediately or on demand to the final user. So you need some storage, because you need to store your products for maybe 3 months to 6 months, some even up to 1 year, to actually buffer for any volatility in terms of the demand, right? Shortage, So dialogue plays a very huge role in this midstream space. And then finally, downstream. Downstream is what the players do to actually add more value to the crude oil. So crude oil can actually be converted into a lot of products. It can be your gasoline, which is your petrol, and then also maybe your diesel and aviation fuel. And then another side of it is, please stop me if there's any questions that you want to ask, Adrian. So like for downstream, right? There's another segment called petrochemicals. So mainly, there's a lot of very technical names for petrochemicals, but mainly they are the feedstock for your plastic products, all sorts of things. So your paint, your paint dyer and all that. So your cosmetics. So actually, our life is all actually covered by oil and gas or petroleum products, like our shirt, our plastics, our car.
Vaseline?
Vaseline also, yes, part of it, right? So petrochemicals is actually quite technical, but I think the biggest segment among petrochemicals is your plastic products. So that one is the most commoditized, and in terms of volume, is still the biggest. But of course, every year you have new chemicals coming out, and it's also a very cyclical industry. So that's like the very rough overview of the oil and gas sector lah. Yeah, shall we move on to the next slide if you don't have any questions?
Yeah, sure. I think what you have shared, I mean, I always thought that dying is downstream, you know. I mean, I'm glad that you actually, I mean, put on some of these examples, and now I have a better picture on Dillium, Pradana. They are all at the upstream where the producers are being classified and petchems. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Sin Kiat, on that.
Okay, so moving on. Since the focus tonight is upstream services, right? So this is basically the breakdown of the sectors I presented in the earlier slide, right? So this is just upstream, but within upstream, there's quite a lot of very sub segments, and to be honest, they have their own market dynamics as well, right? So exploration, I think is quite straightforward. Is how you analyze the data and then try to find oil. Basically, the action of trying to look for oil is basically exploration. You study the seismic, then you give the survey, you provide the data, then you give a probability of whether we can hit oil or not, right? So this is all done by Busma, you know, Schlumberger, Armada, not so much now. Now it's more Rand Hill, right? And then once, yeah, Rand Hill, they actually have very exploration focused service businesses. I think it's not put into the listed entity because currently the listed entity is mainly water.
Yeah,
so they
that's
actually
what I
took
thought.
out the oil and gas part because they wanted to list the oil and gas part, but you know something happened during that time, and then they move on with without oil and gas for the IPO.
Okay.
So we go to drilling, right? So once you have, let's say you're Petronas, right? Once you gather enough data to convince yourself that there's very high chance of getting oil, then you start to drill. That's when you try to test whether the oil field has oil or not lah. So you have your players, like you need a drilling rig to actually drill the oil field. So that's where Balesto Supply Energy comes in. Usma not so much on the drilling rig. Usma is more like the services or more like the consultancy side of the drilling part. Yeah, and then feed is actually quite closely related to exploration. So it's basically it's like your contractor job, right? You need to do some engineering study, feasibility studies, and all that. This is all mainly dominated by foreign players. So we don't really deal much in this in terms of operations. And then you have your fabrication. Fabrication is you need a yard to actually fabricate very big structures and all that, right? So it's a bit like a contractor, like Gamuda, all those you see. It behaves a bit like a contractor. But of course, the offshore services, they are more so-called more high-end. And then also it's a much bigger steel structure. And then the specifications for the materials are much higher because it's offshore and very harsh. So it's a very technical and challenging business to be in, right? MMHE, Supply Energy, KKB is mainly in Sarawak. And then pipe laying, pipe coatings is the pipes. So the upstream pipes, we still call it upstream. We don't call it midstream. And then transport, yeah. Transport, okay. Transport, I think, is quite related to offshore support vessels, so I won't talk much about it. Floating solutions is it's a type of platform whereby you can't put a fixed platform, you know, in the oil field because of the deep water and all that. So you need a floating type of production platform to actually enable the production of the oil field. So it's quite it's quite an in thing to actually use floating solutions. We call it FPSO, floating production, storage, and processing, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have your Armada and then your Yinsen doing all this. So like I think the key differentiator that they're able to do it much better than the rest is in terms of how you secure your financing to get it as cheap as possible, and also how you execute on the project so that you don't do cost overrun. Because once you get cost overrun, then you won't make money on the project. In fact, you will burn money on the project and you will kill the company because the capex value is quite huge. So
I think yesterday I saw something,
yeah.
some news on Yinsen. Is that an FPSO that they say they are sailing out to to the sea or somewhere out there. I think,
Yes. The one
yeah.
is Atlanta, FPSO Atlanta.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So just to maybe elaborate a bit on that is basically what sail away means is that from the yard, usually it's a fabrication yard lah, MMHE,
Yeah.
but of course our Malaysian yard don't specialize in FPSO. So now the common thing is to do it in China because they are cheap and reliable, right? So sail away means they start to sail away from the yard to the designated oil or gas field.
Okay,
Then
okay.
yeah, once you reach the location, then you can go for final acceptance because clients will try to. It's like when you're getting your key for a property, you need to check whether your
Check
asset.
defect.
Yeah, check for defect. Whether it's up to
Okay.
spec. Then you can complain and all that. So that one is very crucial. So between then and final acceptance is a very important thing to look at for Inson and Armada because if something is screwed up, then it might be a very costly
Warranty
thing.
period lah.
Warranty period, then you might lose money on the whole project because if you really screw up, then it can be quite damaging to the company in the next
Okay,
few years.
yeah.
Right. So OSV, offshore support vessel. I think this is like the so-called highlight of my strategy for oil and gas because
Okay,
I still
okay.
think that this sub-segment is a bit underappreciated. Of course, a lot of people got burned because of previous cycles. But I suggest that we actually need to really have a relook at the sector because I still think it's a bit undercovered and still a bit underappreciated, at least in my opinion. So what they do is they are literally the so-called tow truck in the offshore sector, right? Because some vessels we call it AHTS, anchor handling tug and vessel. So what you do is because all these are drilling rig, your platforms, you need something to tow it to the oil field. So I think a lot of Malaysian players they actually have quite more than 10, 15 or 20 years experience in all these providing all these vessels. So it's actually still a very significant sector, and I think in terms of the demand and supply dynamics starting this year and in the next 1 or 2 years, I believe that the supply dynamics is very favorable to existing incumbent players. So that's just like a so-called preview to next few slides.
All right.
Yeah. If I'm going too slow, you can always tell me, then I can. Yeah. So supply base and terminals, I think not much. This one is dialogue. I think is mainly for supplying the fuel, the bunker fuel for all your offshore support vessel. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention for offshore support vessel, there's also another type of vessel called accommodation barge, accommodation work, which you will see in a lot of Perdana's announcements. So it's kind of like a hot vessel to look at now because a lot of topside maintenance activities by Dayang and all that. When you do maintenance, you need manpower. And then when you need manpower, you need boat barges because boat barges actually has a lot of, they call it floating hotel, right, for oil and gas. So you use it to house people and house your mechanics and all that. And there's also a very flat space for you to put your stuff to work on. Right. So now it's kind of like the hottest commodity in oil and gas now for
Okay.
accommodation vessel.
I almost thought it's a bus sekolah,
It's a bit like that, but of course you need the AHTS to pull it, and then it's like you put it beside the platform, and then once they finish their work and everything, they can always go and rest in the barges because the rooms provided on the platform is never enough to cater for all the maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so actually this brings me to hookup and commissioning. Hookup and commissioning is a bit similar to topside maintenance. It's mainly maintaining the systems, and then it's like doing servicing for your car, right? You need scheduled maintenance, but of course in the oil and gas sector, even maintenance is also cyclical. When times are bad, people try to maintain as little as possible. When times are good, they have to ramp up the maintenance because that's when you try to maximize your existing production. Because oil field is you need to maintain oil field because if you don't maintain it, every year you will see natural production decline and all that, and slowly you lose revenue, right? So you have to maintain it, and that's why hence maintenance is somewhat cyclical as well. Yeah, and then of course rejuvenation, abandonment, this one is all the later stages of the oil field. When the oil field is older, then you have to have a certain way of decommissioning the platform so that you don't hurt the environment too much. Yeah.
Okay. Plug the hole, basically find a way to
plug the hole. Yeah, but you can't just plug like that.
Yeah.
So you need someone to actually properly plug it so that you won't pollute the environment. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's a very interesting sharing that you have for us. And I think that have actually gave us a very, very good picture of what all these player does. Yeah. Shall we move on to the next slide?
Yep. Sure. I think I stay a bit too long in this slide. Yeah. So I think big picture, Brent price expectations. So for 2024, we are keeping our $84 per barrel. Next year is a bit more bearish, $79 per barrel. EIE actually just revised up their Brent forecast, 87 for this year, 84.8 for 2025. I think the thing that they're getting a bit more bullish on is the demand side, because the demand is actually looking quite good. But for me, I think as of now, I prefer to stay a bit on the conservative side, because it doesn't really change my upstream services call that much. Because I mean, if the oil price is 84, 87, it's still, even if it's on 679 on average, I think let's say Petronas for Malaysia will still spend in terms of capex, because they have been underspending, since COVID. So my thesis overall won't have huge changes unless the oil price start to drop below 70 in a very significant way. So meaning recession and all that, or maybe OPEC, the OPEC production cut just breaks down. Everyone just decided to ramp up. Then it will be a totally different scenario. But for now, our base case is, for this year, we expect OPEC to continue their cut, which is about 1.2 to 1.4 million barrels a day, if I remember correctly. Of course, the net figure could be a bit different, but it's about there. So that will result in a slight deficit in the market if the market's expectation for world demand for crude oil is correct. If it's within, then it will be a deficit in demand. Then hence you see a slightly stronger trend in oil prices this year. Maybe 84, 85, 86 and all that. But going to 100 is a bit of a long shot, in my opinion, because you need a so-called supply crisis to actually trigger oil price to go to that level. So I feel.
Can I stop you for a while? I mean, I mean, we joined Kenanga around the same time, and I think we saw the crash of the oil and gas oil price, right? At that point of time, can you remind me around which year is that it happened, and what roughly the lowest price of the brand that it went through?
Okay, you're talking about the peak and then the crashing, right?
Yeah, the trial. Is it something around 2013 or 2014?
Okay, I think 2014 is almost like the peak of the oil price for that cycle.
Yeah, then it crashed all the way, right?
Then it crashed all the way. I think down to, I need to double check later. If I'm
almost
correct,
40,
I think it's
if
down
I
to
recall
40.
properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost down to 40. Yeah.
So from there, right, I recall that in this 10 years gap, is it something that where the downfall of the sector, right, has affected the capex spending a lot, and now that the question is, over the 10 years, have they been under invested in terms of their exploration activities and all this?
Okay, very good question actually. Yes, definitely since 2014, right? There's underspending. Of course, some of the capex actually flow over to 2015 because they sanctioned it, back in 2013, 2014. So there's actually still some capex left. But since then until COVID, right? If you look at the capex trend, it's actually perpetually on a downtrend. Of course, recently it has gone up a bit, but it's nowhere near what we have seen back in 2013 and 2014.
Yeah.
And also another driver for it why people are so reluctant to spend, right, in the last so-called 5 to 10 years. It's mainly because of the ESG transition. Everyone is talking about ESG, right? And then peak oil, everything, we are, trying to get away from carbon-based products. So a lot of, Exxon, BP, all those, they underspend. I think, of course, exacerbated by COVID, I think it's even worse. So I think you reach a point where you really cannot cut the capex anymore unless you want inflation to continue to go up. And then in the end, we still haven't seen peak oil demand yet, in my opinion. And we still need energy to survive, or at least to function as a transition fuel to our greener future in the next 10 to 20 years, right? So that's my so-called long-term thesis. But of course, in terms of timing, things might be still quite off. Like I thought Petronas could ramp up their capex very soon, but actually only since second half last year they start to show a bit of ramping up. I think they're still taking their own sweet time to try to increase their capex.
But all in all, I think where we are looking at this, the lowest level of capex spending is over. I mean, could we agree on that?
Yes,
So in
definitely.
other words, if we were to look at this oil and gas sector in the next 2 to 3 years, right, we will not see any unless there's a black swan event. I mean, we will not see anywhere of the repeat of the 2014 crash scenario anytime soon.
Yes,
I mean, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I think of course the base case is no recession, right? If there's a very serious recession, all bets are off. All the commodities will drop based on historical data. And of course, that's based on the assumption also that OPEC is still functioning as a so-called cartel. Because if the whole relationship breaks down, right? So if Russia decided to just go on their own, they just go and produce however much they want, then the whole thing breaks down. So that might actually cause prices to go way below than what we expect.
Haywire a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe next slide. I think
Okay.
Yeah. I still have half an hour, right? Okay. Okay. So now we go to capex. So because for Malaysian market, I think in particular, right, we can't just look at the oil price because we only have I think even one listed players that's doing producing oil, selling oil directly, which is Hibiscus. So other than that, the rest of the listed players are all in the upstream service subsegment. So upstream service subsegment, as I mentioned earlier, is very, very dependent on the capex by Petronas. So everyone will look at capex by Petronas every year. And this is on the left side of the slide, right? You can see the breakdown of what Petronas has spent last year. Last year, it was 52.8 billion. So just to recap, right? Actually, since end of 2022, Petronas has mentioned that they will spend on average 60 billion every year, I think, for the next 3 to 5 years. So from 2022 to 2027, if I remember correctly, their target was 60 billion. 2022 and 2023, they underspent the target, right? So Petronas always has a track record of underspending their capex target. But my view is because if you look at the breakdown, right, I think the upstream part, if you look at the red color bar on the right side, right, the upstream part is going up quite a lot, right? So I think starting this year and next year, Petronas will be more comfortable to try to hit their 60 billion target, and this alone will actually bring quite a lot of contract flows for the upstream service providers, because your upstream portion keeps going up. Because for downstream, we don't see much projects because Rapid is almost completed. There's no announcement of mega, phase 3 Pengerang and all that. Maybe other players will invest, but there's no indicators of any downstream investments. And then Gentari is mainly renewable energy. It's already 12% of the capex. I think is quite substantial. So most of the 60 billion will go to upstream. And I'm quite confident that starting this year and next year onwards, it will be closer to 60 billion. So like when people ask me, since Petronas has been saying 60 billion for the last few years, so there's no change or no revision up of capex. Why I also bullish? I think my point is saying that they have been underspending their target. So since now we are quite sure that the oil price will be around 80, 84 for the next 1-2 years. Maybe they are more comfortable to try to hit their target, and that alone will actually bring quite a lot of contracts for the upstream service providers. Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at your 2013 and 2014 being the peak for uptrend spending, right? 2023 has actually catch up quite nicely as compared to the historical years after 2015, which is after the oil crisis, right? So which is reflected quickly in the 2016 era lah. So yeah, I think you got a point there though. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
catching up nicely.
Yep. I mean, of course, we can't be 100% sure, but in the end, I think it's still a very cyclical industry. And then we have reached a point where we have gone through long enough down cycle.
Yeah.
Something is bound to happen in the sector because you can't just completely take off the sector and mention that they are all irrelevant, right? We still need energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah. Yeah. Maybe next slide. Yeah. So this is just upstream. Okay. So I think the coming few slides, right? I think it's mainly just what I've so-called extracted from the Petronas activity outlook for 2024 to 2026, right? So just like I mentioned, for upstream service providers, you have drilling, OSV, and then fabrication and all that. So all this is they actually try to guide what is their requirement, what is the so-called expected demand for their drilling rigs, how many rigs they need or how many OSV vessels they need. So if you look at 2023 and then you compare to 2024 to 2026, right? Drilling is actually already booming. I think everyone has known this. Volesto has been doing really well. To be fair, or to be honest, we are actually quite behind the curve in Volesto, or we are quite late in upgrading Volesto. But yes, they have done well. If you look at the rig requirement, especially look at JUR, right? The blue color, the blue outline chart. They need 13 rigs, right? From 12 rigs. 10 is already contracted, 3 is yet to be awarded. And then, onwards also at least 13. So in terms of drilling rig demand is still quite healthy. And then Volesto only owns about 6 rigs. Yeah, I think it's about 6. So they still need some other parties drilling rig, and nobody is actually building new jackup rigs now. So I think it's still quite bullish, but a lot of the market has actually found out about this, and the share price has already done well. And then, yeah, I think moving on to the next one. Yeah, so this is fabrication, so mainly related to MHE, KKB, and all that. So what this means is, CPP, WHP, all this is CPP is Central Processing Platform. This is a very big platform whereby you actually collect all the production from different oil fields, and then you centralize it into one hub. So we call it centralized processing platform. You process it, then only you send it to the shore. So these are usually very heavy and very big structures, and it's typically way more challenging to construct. And then I think bigger yachts like MHE, only bigger yachts MHE can do it, because I think for now KKB still can't do it. And then you go down to wellhead platform. This one is mainly for well, right? CPP is multiple wells. This one is maybe one well, a couple of wells. So within the WHP segment also got big, medium, and light. So if you just look at the number of platforms, it's relatively quite flattish, but I suspect their guidance is a bit on the low side, because there's a lot of projects that they haven't sanctioned yet. So I think by end of this year, when they release the new 2025 activity outlook, I think this might be revised up. But again, I'm not super bullish on this segment because, like, especially MMHE, I think because it's still very challenging to make money on your order book. You can get however much order book you want, but it's very difficult to make money in fabrication because the margin of error is very low, and even like Korean and Singaporean players, given how good they are, right, in doing their execution, they are still making some losses, if I remember correctly. So I'm not so keen on this sector. This is just for
Some knowledge
illustration of
sharing.
the activity. Yeah. And then
Okay.
yeah, maybe next slide.
Hold on,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Outside.
HUC and topside maintenance. Just now you saw the name is Dayang,
Yeah.
Charimin,
Charimin.
Petra Energy. I don't know whether Dilium is still doing it or not. I think they might have. I'm not really sure about Dilium. I need to see them more for info. So HUC and topside actually started booming since last year, right? So how you see the direction or the trajectory of the sub-segment is by expected man hours by Petronas, right? So if you look at 2023, actual manpower is 4 million. They expected 5.8 million. This year is quite crazy. This year the expectation is to go all the way to 7.6. So it's almost double. So even if they come below expectation, right, 6 million man hours, if you just roughly, try to mirror it to the revenue trend, right? You roughly know how well, in my opinion, how well Dayang and then as well as maybe even Charimin and Petra will do. Because again, tying back to what Agent has mentioned just now, right? Topside maintenance also, people usually underspend when it's down, right?
Yeah.
So during COVID, you try to minimize your spending. But now I think you wait until a point whereby you can't wait, you can't delay it anymore. So they have to pay a premium to do it. They have to rush their maintenance works. That's why since last year, I think until this year, right? You see like margin expansion, revenue going up very fast for players like Dayang and Charimin and all that. And I think this year will be a good year for
Just
that.
curious,
Yeah.
for the man hours is like it should be the incremental of head count, right? Not too much on the rate, or is it both?
Okay, man hours definitely is the head count. It's not the rate.
Okay. But would we see the rate to go up a bit higher in
Yes.
lieu of the demand?
Yes. Okay. Actually, because how I try to gauge this is we try to, I mean, we every quarter we try to talk to the players, right? And then if you saw the announcement recently, say for Dayang, I think for Petra also, you see like they announced an extension of contract from Petronas Carigali, HUC, Pan Malaysia project or whatnot. So all those contracts actually, if you talk to the players at Dayang and all that, they actually got a rate revision. But of course, they can't mention how much.
Okay. Okay.
But I think the market also, is quite well guided on that. So I think this is gonna be even a better year than last year overall. Yeah.
All right. Quickly, there's a question from the floor from Christopher. Does Pradana have the enough spare capacity to ride and benefit higher job flow and higher DCR in the industry, considering a late up? Yeah. Is it something that we can touch on, or we can attend to it later, Sinket?
I can roughly touch on it. Of course, I can't cover it, I don't cover it. So like my knowledge might be a bit limited lah. If I remember correctly, I think most of their vessels are actually contracted, and then I think some of it got quite good rates recently lah. So I don't know whether is it 100% higher DCR impact. I think some might get lower DCR because of some existing contract from last year. So I don't know what is the breakdown, but Pradana could be one of the highest so-called in terms of sensitivity to DCR could be the highest because
Okay.
their vessels are mainly focused on maintenance, and maintenance is already showing very strong activities if you look at the man hours, right? So I think now one accommodation book or work batch, I forgot already, is about $100,000, 100,000 ringgit per day, which is quite close to what we have seen in 2013 and 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just a quick refresher is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Sinket. DCR is daily chartered rate, right?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to
Okay,
mention.
cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, my head is full of discounted cash flow. I just couldn't make up what is the R, right? So yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
can
Yeah. Thanks for
let's resume.
clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So maybe we can move on to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this ties back into OSB demand. So OSB, right? There's actually two types of so-called use cases for OSB lah. One is to support production, which is the maintenance part for existing production. And then the other one, which is the more lucrative one when during an upcycle, right, is for drilling. So when your drilling improve, you need someone to tow your drilling rigs, right? And then you need someone to tow your barges to
Yep.
lay your pipes and all that. So that's where the upside is lah. So currently what Perdana focus on is on the production side, because they have a lot of accommodation work budgets. So now accommodation work budget is the hot thing now, because any listed players with accommodation work budgets, work boats will get very, very good charter rates, even though their vessels are quite old. And then if you look at the right side, right, drilling, you see the jump from 2023, you need 193 vessels for drilling. Of course, there's a lot of different type of vessels inside. We won't delve too much on it. If you look at 2024, the jump is quite huge, 249 vessels.
Yeah.
So I think the market is favorable for whoever that has existing vessels, because nobody is building new vessels now. Nobody, because it's very hard to get bank financing to build the vessels. And then of course, you can try to get foreign flag vessels, but I think Petronas still prefer locally flagged vessels, and there's not many left. Alam Maritime, I think, is still in PN17. Today I saw on news, EA Technic also has some issues. I don't know whether they are out of the woods or not. I think they are still having quite sticky issues with their balance sheet and all that. So you're left with only Icon and Perdana that are the so-called least vulnerable compared to the rest, right? You don't have much. Of course, you have Marine and General, which is a smaller player, and then a lot of Sendirian Berhad players, which it's like a black box because we don't know how many Sendirian Berhad players are there. So if you just look at that direction, right? Supply is not increasing. Some of the vessels is getting older, and then once your vessels are older than 20 years, right, you have to decommission it, or some people send it to Indonesia for charter. So the demand and supply dynamics is favoring the OSB owners more and more, and I still think that this is just the early stages of the so-called upcycle in OSB that we are seeing. So that's my so-called angle for the OSB subsegment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is just validation. It's quite small. So if you look at the recent wins, right, it's mainly Perdana, So like Perdana recently, the ones they get, I think most some is AHTS, but mostly I think most of it is accommodation boat barge or accommodation boat, right? You see, one is like hitting 100,000. Then some is maybe 80,000 per day, right? So it's quite huge. So that's why you see from the trend of the contracts that they're awarding is actually getting higher and higher. And if nobody is building new vessel, right, then the rates have to go higher until someone build new vessels.
I mean, I'm tempted to hop on the ship already now, man.
I don't know, but of course, I think just to some disclaimer, I think OSB players, they have their risk. You know, monsoon, your downtime, your vessels can be
Okay.
down. Vessels, if your vessels is too old, you never maintain properly, your downtime
Yeah.
could be down also. Even in a good market, you won't benefit. So that's like to highlight
Okay.
the
Okay.
risk
Okay.
for
Thanks for highlighting that. Now probably I might not want
yeah.
to jump on the ship.
Yeah. So maybe moving on to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was the so-called thesis for OSB and then for upstream. So like I think before we move to downstream, for upstream, my focus is on smaller caps, smaller to mid caps, especially the OSB players because I think it's the next play after drilling. And then of course you have players like USMA, we still have a buy call. USMA is focused on production, geology, exploration, and all that. So they will benefit also. But also, I think that one, quite a number of investors have noticed it. I still think OSB is a bit less, so-called less
Laggard.
discovered lah. A bit of a laggard play. And then
Okay.
the action will be all on the small to mid caps lah, instead of the big caps. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Cool.
yeah. So okay, so another interesting one is midstream, but of course I'll mention why I still don't like downstream. Downstream is mainly PCAM. I don't know whether people here they still trade PCAM or not. So PCAM is mainly a very cyclical and a commodity based player. So they are in a very bad cycle now. Because I think petrochemicals, especially for PCAM, their revenue and selling price is very correlated to the um, economic cycles. So your industrial economy and all that, like since last year, China has been in so-called industrial or physical economy recession, so-called. Although they don't officially call it a recession. So actually, since last year, the industrial demand is very slow, and then Europe also. So hence the chemical prices are quite suppressed. Um, so if you ask me, like, was last year the bottom? Yes, maybe in terms of the prices, but we still need to see more confirmation in terms of the recovery in chemical price for me to upgrade PCAM, right? Because PCAM has their own issues. They just bought their subsidiary, per stock, which focus on specialty chemicals, and it's loss making. So we still need to see where is the inflection point, and I don't think the inflection point is in first half. Basically,
Okay.
I think for PCAM, we just get ready for second half and we see how China goes. And then I think it's a better time to relook at PCAM. As well
Okay.
as MISC. I think MISC shipping is already quite high, the tanker rates and all that. Because the only volatile part of their earnings is the petroleum tanker rates. And since 2022, because of the Ukraine war, it's actually quite high. The tanker rates are actually already quite high. So like what else can MIC, do to ramp up their earnings? Not for this year, I think. At most it's a whole call, and then you just enjoy the dividend yield. In terms of capital gains, I'm not expecting much until something changes for the petroleum tankers.
Would you say that there's
Uh,
more now that the cycle for the rates are a bit toppish for MSC, there could be a bit more of a downside risk than an upside surprise?
yes, potentially. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, definitely. Because because now the supply chain is a bit how to say, the supply routes is a bit different because of the Ukraine war. So a lot of the tankers need to travel further, right? Because previously you can get petroleum from Russia and all that. Say you are European country, right?
Yeah.
You can get it very near from Russia and all that, but now you have to get it all the way from US, maybe some of it from Middle East. So actually the distance to travel is actually much longer now. So hence you see a very strong rates. But once that thing is taken away, right? Then
Then we
what's the
might see
next?
a downward
Yes,
spiral.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, just to be a little bit more careful on MIC, and then also on their incoming project, which is Mero 3 FPSO execution. Also, we are not sure because they are not like Inson. Inson has been executing, for multiple years. In the last 10 years, they've proven that they can do it, but not everyone in the industry can do it. So we will see how. I think MIC is also wait and see. I think in the coming months and see what happens and what pans out in the shipping market and the FPSO project. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
So next one, the last so-called angle on.
Okay. I love Singapore.
You love Singapore. You love
For me,
Singapore
pop
for the
money and
dollar.
not for the dollar currency.
Yeah. So I think for another later I will show you the topics. I think aside from upstream service providers, we are starting to get a bit more bullish on the not downstream, the midstream.
Midstream?
Just now I mentioned midstream is pipelines and storage, right?
Yeah.
Since 2022 until last year, I think, storage has not been doing well. If you look at Dialog share price, it has been quite terrible in terms of the trend. Although their earnings are still quite flat, but there's no growth in earnings. I think a lot of people sold off Dialog, and then also exclusion from the index and all that. And then one of their European peer, Warpac, also does storage, and their share price are actually suffered. So now we are still seeing some light in the end of the tunnel, right? Because last year what happened was when OPEC Plus tried to cut production, right? When your overall production is being suppressed, the demand for storage won't be that huge. So storage is some of them say is inversely correlated to oil price, right? Not all the time, but I think the logic is because during low oil prices, during period of low oil prices, the storage demand will automatically increase because they will hold a lot of oil, right? And then there's a lot of people producing oil. So definitely you need more storage. So we are starting to see some ramp up in demand for storage. Of course, coming from a low base is still nowhere near the previous highs. But Singapore storage is filling up. Like if you look at the utilization, it's slowly creeping up to the 90s level. They used to be an 88% and all that. So maybe over time, the GDP growth of the world itself get to, slowly eat away the excess supply, that we have seen in the last 2 years. So for Dialog, we think it's a good time to relook at Dialog because for Dialog, we think they hit the bottom already since last year. In terms of earnings also, so there are some of their tank terminals are still related or linked to the or exposed to the spot tankage market. So hence we are seeing some rebound, starting this year. And they have a lot of legacy contracts which is losing money. They are completing it soon. So much lower losses from that side. So in terms of earnings, right, this year we are expecting quite a strong recovery for Dialog. So I think it's a comeback year for Dialog. Also, I think for Pengerang, yes, not much announcement on the downstream, but they are talking to a couple of downstream players to maybe collaborate on future storage demands. So I think for Dialog the angle is the expectation is already quite low. Anything that outperforms expectations will be quite favorable to the share price. And then yes, and then earnings has bottomed in my opinion. So anything is bonus lah. So for Dialog, that's my opinion.
Probably
So that's
later we
my
check on the chart. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe next slide. What is the
Okay, this is the universe.
Yeah, so that's the universe. I think is towards the tail end of my presentation. So this is the stocks that I cover for Kenanga. So if you look at the cost, right, OP, outperform, most of it is in the upstream service department. If you look at downstream, midstream, downstream, sorry, PChem, PETDEC, Petron Malaysia is market perform. Wasco, Valesto, Hinson, all by call, right? Armada, why not? Okay, some people might ask why Armada is not a buy. I think I'm a bit hesitant on Armada is because yes, the PE is very low. Yes, the FPSO Kraken is recovered. So but what's next, right? So my question is like the FPSO Kraken is the biggest earnings contributor to the company. And yes, the asset still gives very consistent earnings, but after end of this year, right, they have to go for renewal. So when they go for FPSO Kraken's renewal, when they get a cut in rates, right, the earnings will suffer. So unless they get a new FPSO project or whatnot, it's very difficult to be bullish on Armada just on the expect. So
Okay.
I'm a bit more cautious on Armada. Of course, I think they're still okay. I think the balance sheet is still okay and all that. Kraken has recovered, but I need to see more catalysts before I relook at Bumi Armada. Yeah.
Before you review with a more positive tone or more bullish tone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Confirmation, at least you're waiting for one. So Sin Kiat, just a quick one. Among all now that you have mentioned on the upstream that's where you will put the focus on. And I think recently you initiated on one stock and among the basket of this coverage, right? Which one would you like and prefer the most and why?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned just now, of course, just to start, I have 3 topics in the sector. So the
Okay.
2 bigger caps is Dialog and Yinsen. So
Okay.
of course, I think that is quite consensus lah. So I think a lot of people has buy calls on Dialog and Yinsen, you know, some of them like almost forever. So I guess the more exciting, in my opinion, actually, the more exciting call from my side would be Icon. I just initiated on Icon Offshore. As I mentioned just now, I believe that the OSB segment is underappreciated, and of course, Icon. I think the background is last year they actually did worse than expected because the market actually expected them to see very strong earnings because they kind of expect stronger rates, right? But what happened was that I think last year the vessels are quite aged already. They are doing some unplanned maintenance, unplanned maintenance.
Okay.
So the downtime is longer than expected. So the vessel utilization low, definitely you won't make as much money. But I stick to the belief that it's a mainly one-off event, and things will be much better starting this year. It will be still a bit bumpy, but starting this year and next year we will see the trajectory. I think it's quite clear from my end, at least in my opinion. So one of the proxies to OSB market, and then they are one of the incumbents with quite comfortable balance sheet lah. I think 0.2 times. If they get the new contracts, even if they get renewal at slightly below market rate, with the cash flow, I think by 1-2 years, I think they can be net cash already. So
Yeah. And
so
they
yeah.
have been generally very generous with dividend when the cash flow is at a quite good surplus, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because their capex is mainly to maintain the vessel.
More of an OPEX.
More of OPEX, but of course they capitalize some of it lah. And then of course they still don't have concrete plans of buying new vessels yet, because nobody wants to fund the vessels, right?
Yeah.
So it's very light on the balance sheet, and then it's a matter of how much upside they get. Of course, they are still stuck with some of the older contract, but I think over time, once they settle the vessel utilization, you will gradually see recovery in the numbers. Yeah.
Will you mind if I quickly share the chart for the 3 topics that you're looking at?
Yeah.
Can you remind us when did you initiate it on Icon? Just curious. I mean, I forgot about the date lah, but yeah. So
actually,
I recall it was at a very low price, lower end of the price that when you initiated it. So it was, I mean, the timing was perfect lah.
Yeah, I think I got a bit lucky.
Yeah, and I think Sin Kiat,
Yeah.
today I saw the oil and gas move a bit. I think that the market heard or the whispers of you coming online, I guess.
Well, that's one way of putting it lah. But I don't think I matter so much. I think it is on 14 March. Yeah, I think I initiated on 14 March.
14 March. Okay,
Yeah,
let's see.
so it
Icon
was at
Offshore.
about 60 cents, 61 cents.
14 March is here. Wow, perfect timing. Now it's about 10% up already. Wow, you
Yeah,
caught it really,
so
really good. Yep. And today I think there's some activity also with it. So what do I do? I mean, to the audience a bit and Sinket is every webinar that I host, I also throw out a chart for people to actually follow. And the next recent upcoming gap to close is at 70 cent, and today I think it kind of closed the gap. And the next one is like we want to see from a technical standpoint, Sinket is more on the fundamental side, is for icon to breach the 70 cent, then I think there will be a conviction that it will rally to 81 cent. So that's my take from the technical standpoint. And yes, kudos to Sinket for initiating at such a fantastic time. And those that want the report, you can actually log into your Kentrade account and you have research. And on dialogue, I think even on timing basis, those clients that have actually joined our stock chat would have caught it at a very early stage, around this level here. And if I were to look at it in the technical perspective, 2 ringgit and 35 cent is one level to challenge. And now it's actually forming quite a steady base. It's holding above its 20 days, 21 days moving average. So those are looking for a longer term collection period of more than a year. You could look at the range of 209, 203 if there's weakness. For those that couldn't resist, you can start a little bit around here. Right, Yinsen. Okay, Yinsen. Yinsen, I think from the share price perspective, that is a very good opportunity, right, Sinket? I think market have not really
yes,
take notice of this now that I look at it.
yeah, because it has been the underperformer for the last 2 years
Is there
already.
any particular reasons on that?
I think, okay, first thing, of course, this one is all in hindsight, right? I think first thing first is the earnings hasn't really, if you look at the earnings trend, right? If you take out the EPCC gain and whatnot, they haven't been really showing increase in earnings. It's
Yeah.
actually on a downtrend. I think
Okay.
partly because of their renewable energy ventures and also their green energy ventures, which is loss-making. So the market is slowly losing faith, a bit on whether they can reverse the losses in the renewable energy segment. So everyone is just waiting for the new projects to come in. So they have
Okay.
Atlanta project and then the Marlin 2, which is the Brazil project also. I
Mm,
think the key job for them is to execute on the project and show earnings. I think that's it. So as long
okay.
as they start showing earnings, convincing earnings, then I think the share price will slowly, it's a bit like Dialog where I think the latest quarter, there was quite a big jump on Dialog
Yeah.
when it was just a bit slightly stronger than what people expect. It's actually not so much stronger, but I think because of the low expectation, right?
Mm.
When it's a bit stronger, when the trend is turning, then people will start relooking at it. So yes, I agree with your point. Yeah.
I think that from chart perspective on the so-called weekly lookout on 2020, year 2022, Yinsen went to a low of 183. And if the idea of now people are expecting deliverance of their earnings and a bit of the contract flows, right? Probably in the near term, a very good collection point could be hovering about 2 ringgit and 34 cent, I guess. I mean, echoing on, I mean, after hearing from what Sinket has shared, that's my view. Yeah. So 2 ringgit 34 cent is a point that I would look at, and this is where yeah, for Yinsen. Icon. Okay, we shall jump into the questions from the chat box a bit. Icon, this is where the 14th of March, where your initiation is, and dialogue is holding really steady here. Sorry, I did not notice. I did not share the chart earlier. We are running a bit delayed, but yeah. Okay, from the chat box, what do you think about key field? This is from
Okay.
Satir, AK Dana. Yeah.
Okay. I think first of all, I am meeting them, I think soon. I think it's next week or the week after.
Mm,
So I haven't really studied the company well, but since I'm bullish on OSP, I think I'm leaning towards the bullish side. But again, I need to look at what valuation they are trying to push for. Apparently the valuation is quite low, based on their earnings projections. But I really need to study it because apparently it's still a very quite bullish story, and then the margins are very good. The rates they are getting is very good. Even the charter in vessels they get is also getting very good margins. But I need to
Assess that first.
yeah, I need to assess them,
Okay, cool.
understand the company better first, because I think a lot of people has asked about it.
Yeah. Another one from Christopher. How do you forecast company that doesn't consider all out of call basis and don't have order book value disclosed?
How do I forecast?
Meet the management more and more, I guess.
Yeah, one of it is meeting the management more and more. And then actually they do have order book. I think I forgot what's the Dayang's order book because I've not been writing about them for quite some time. I think the order book is about 2 billion, but I need to double check the number. So there's an order book, but of course the order book won't be realized if the management, if the Petronas, the client, don't call the contract, don't call the work orders. So it's a bit of how I do it is actually a bit subjective in the sense that where do I think is the cycle for the client to do the work orders. So during COVID, it has been depressed for 3 years, right? I think, yeah. Even 2022 also, you see some glimpse of recovery. So if you look at the last 3-4 years, it's actually not very good. So 2023, you start to see very strong earnings, right? And then that's where you can roughly know what is the quantum. And also another way to look at it is maybe you look at 2018 and 19. Actually, there was a so-called upcycle for Dayang also during 2018 and 19. So that's when the Petronas also ramp up and increase the work rate for the maintenance jobs, and hence you see record earnings. But I think judging from the cycle, this this year could be higher than what we have seen in 2019, I think. Yeah, so maybe that is a good guidance. So it's a very it's an art. I think for Dayang, you can't just use the order book divided by a number of years and all that. I think every year is different depending on the oil price and then also the direction from Petronas.
And a lot of heavy lifting in very, very on the ball follow up with management, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we need to put Sin Kiat to work more harder. Yeah. So some questions is like from on Sapura Energy, what's your view? And also Heng Yuan.
Wow, Sapura Energy. Yeah, I think for Sapura, okay, in terms of fundamentals, I think definitely if you look at the balance sheet and all that, it's still negative equity, right? Meaning your asset cannot cover your debts, right? But of course, the debt holders or the creditors can always convert the amount owed to them to shares. Basically, you need to dilute the shares and then reduce the debt balance. There's no other way around it. But I think the good thing is the cycle is turning for oil and gas. So there might be some early signs of recovery, but I think fundamentally it's too early to call. I think you can make a punt. It is almost like a gamble, how much, how are they gonna,
Even my chart shows arrow 404 soon. Is this the counter where the CEO is too highly paid?
Yes. Used to. I think he took a step back and then he's not so public anymore.
So ESG, the G is pretty much not that great.
Yeah. Okay. But to be fair to the new management, it's getting a bit better.
Okay.
To be fair to them.
Benefit of doubt we should give them.
Yeah, benefit of doubt. Of course, I will keep an open mind on this stock.
Okay.
But it's not an bank table call now. Yeah,
it's
definitely
not a streaming buy.
Yeah. Heng Yuan, I think Heng Yuan is the refining spread cycle. I'm not too sure about the refining spread cycle because my colleague covers Petron Malaysia. Last year was a good year in terms of the crack spread. But this year, because my view is oil price is still quite strong, potentially on the more bullish side for oil price, right? And then oil is usually the the feedstock cost, which is your input cost. So I don't think the gasoline price will move as fast.
Okay.
Hence the spread, I think is either flat or down year on year. So in my opinion, in terms of momentum, I think Heng Yuan is on the negative side. And the best time to trade them in hindsight was back in 2022 when Ukraine war happened, and then you
Okay.
see the diesel price. So I usually for Heng Yuan, look at it quarter by quarter, but for now I'm not seeing signs of
More of a trading
increase in.
opportunity than an
Yes,
investment. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay. Chi
Yeah.
Seng, I don't think we can send the slides to everyone, but we will have a recording on YouTube. Do stay tuned and follow Kenanga on our YouTube channel. The last question is the key challenges for Yinsen operating cash flow due to the growth strategy in interest rate or will impact them, their debt credit rating. And after this, we'll move on to Isabel.
Okay, I'll try to keep it quick. So for Yinsen, yes, definitely the gearing is very high and all that, but it's also arguable that the FPSO business is very debt driven, very capex heavy. So as long as they don't screw up on the economics of the FPSO, they will be fine. And also in terms of the interest rate risk, there's no immediate need to refinance their debts and all that. They also have hedging mechanism for interest rate. So
Okay.
in terms of the interest rate exposure, it's not as huge. But of course, for new project, it's a bit harder to get financing. That one is a fact. So I think the market has already so-called factored in the difficulty in terms of financing for new project and all that. And then also their underperformance in earnings in the last few years also caused the share price to be not performing. So I think in terms of gearing risk or going concern risk, I don't see it now for now, unless they screw up on a major upcoming project. Yeah.
Okay, but that partly could kind of explain the share price also, I guess, and that also will add on to the deliverance that one would want to see. Would it be right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, we do not have any more questions from the floor for the oil gas session. And I think Sinket has actually done a really good job in sharing his knowledge and view from the sector. And you know, the saying is you never keep a lady waiting for too long. And I guess in that case, I've kept Isabel waiting for too long. I'm gonna owe you lunch. I'm sorry for that. Yeah. So here's Isabel.
It's okay. I'm a patience lady.
Yeah, you can take the floor. I'll be just chipping in if I've questions from my teacher here.
All right, sweet. Well, my session is just supplementary. It's a supplementary session on structured warrants. I leave the stock recommendations to Sin Kiat. My role is to share how to find the accompanying warrants for its recommendations. So he's the juicy McDonald's Big Mac, and I'm just the French fries, all right? So let's get to it.
That's the key item. Sold.
All right. Perfect. So, disclaimers. Isabel. Naga warrants. All right. So, this evening, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share just these few things. The first thing I'm going to cover is the agenda. I'm sharing a quick and clever strategy today that I've come up with. It's called Fata Sectora. So that is a brand new thing. So for those of you listening to us on 21st of March, it's the first time you're going to hear it. The second thing that's going to happen is I want you to vote for a topic. So I will have some time at the end to cover one out of these 5 topics, as you can see over here.
I want a $50 Shopee voucher.
I don't know.
That.
Well, as I'm speaking, you just press on the chat 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And my lovely colleague Megan, she will see which one gets the most votes, and then I'll cover that right at the end. And the final thing is a reminder on our 3 key takeaways. So we're also giving another 50 ringgit for you guys fives. Don't you want to know a bit more? All right. So we're also giving away another 10, 50 Shopee ringgit vouchers. And what's going to happen is you just need to write 3 key takeaways from your warrant session that I'm going to cover. I always find that how do I put this? The best way to actually learn is to teach others. So if you can share your 3 key takeaways on Facebook, you would have kind of distilled your knowledge and kind of summarized the entire session. Then I know that you understood. So that will be really lovely. So we'll be covering these few bits in the next few minutes. So just the Telegram, if you're lazy, we're going to put the link in the chat right now as well. This is our Naga Warrants Telegram, where we share our daily best-selling warrants.
Yeah, man.
You
It's
can
Year
just
of the
scan
Dragon.
the QR code.
Wait, let me do this
Naga,
also.
right?
Yeah. Okay, done.
You owe me another lunch because you haven't actually done it. I'm almost insulted. I know you're just doing it to please me. All right, so tonight's 8-minute idea is Fata Sectora. So what is Fata Sectora? Fata Sectora is going to cover 3 different parts, all right? The first part is fundamental analysis. Second part is technical analysis, as we all know Fata. And the third part is going to be looking at how you're going to pick the best warrants to accompany these picks. So let's get to it. The FATA part is fundamental analysis. I'm going to zoom in nice and big so you guys can see. So this really is just how the analysts are across the market. This is a Bloomberg machine screenshot. And you can see I'm using an example today as dialogue, as Sin Kiat has spoken about earlier. So you can see that all the analysts that are actually covered in there. You've got different analysts, you've got friends over here, and it actually shows a consensus across the board. And for me, I'm a lazy person. I like doing things the smart way. So if you want
I
a
mean,
quick look,
you mean efficient, right?
I do mean what? Pardon?
Efficient.
I do mean efficient, as efficient as I possibly can be. Time is a resource. You can see Lim Sin Kiat, I'm highlighting it in yellow over there or in green. You can see that his target price is 310. You can see other analysts from other banks as well, and they all will have some sort of consensus or not. So that's how you would roughly do a bit of fundamental analysis to determine whether the stock is reasonable. Of course, you go into their research reports. I'm sure Sin Kiat has for his as well. So the second thing, once you've determined whether that is a stock that you're interested in, you need to understand that there are only 3 things that matter when it comes to all of the talks, all of the courses, all of the books you read, all of the webinars you're attending on your Thursday evening, and sacrificing time with your family, or maybe not watching Dune.
Oh,
All
Dune
of
2
these,
is good, man.
don't spoil it for me. I haven't seen it yet. Okay, you know I like sci-fi. So all of these things that you have attended, all of them actually trickle down into 3 things. And the only 3 things that matter is entry price, stop loss price, take profit price, right? Only 3 things matter. And what can help you do that is a bit of basic technical analysis. So this is an example of some TA. So let's just say if you're having a look at the charts, I'm pulling it all the way out so you can see, you can copy the TA if you want to. I'm very into technical analysis. So this is the time of the dinosaurs. And this is a 1-week candlestick chart, ultra long view. And you can have a look. The trends, it follows a 20-day EMA and a 60-day EMA. Like I always say in my previous talks, different stocks are like different children. They behave very differently. So sometimes they can follow 20 days, sometimes 30, sometimes 50, sometimes 60. So it is up to you to tweak your EMAs a bit, or whether you're using SMAs, right? Different child requires different tweaking, different approach. And what I want you to pay attention to is this reversal pattern. So there are two types of main patterns in technical analysis, a reversal or continuation pattern, right? And what is interesting to note is that there's a double bottom pattern over here. You see that?
Yeah.
Attractive. And you can see
Very sexy.
historically, I know, thank you. I'm laughing my own joke. You can see here that historically dialogue likes to hit a price twice. So that happens over here. That happens over here as well. Here. You can see it's fairly well behaved stock. Well, so far, never say never, right? And the other thing to note, apart from the EMAs, the double bottom, is that there is a congruence. So congruence is when several technical analysis patterns hit together. And I especially love that because from the high, historically over here, at touching almost 4 ringgit back in 2021, you can see if you just pull down the Fibonacci's, it is pulled down back towards the 0.618, which is a very attractive number if you're into Fibonacci retracements. So you can see that there are a few key things when it comes to technicals, right? So you've got your possible entry point, possible target price from your fundamentals. You can use Sin Kiat's target price. And you got your stop loss, which is pretty clear. This is a 1 week chart, but if you're using a 1 day chart, I just didn't want to take up too much time today. You can put your stop loss at about the 20-day SMA. Pretty logical, pretty sensible. So that means, let me pull my fantastic pen out. So let's say the SMA moves something like that, then you would put a stop loss over there. That is about it. So 3 things, right? Everybody understand that? If you understand, please say yes.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I'm asking our attendees, not you, Adrian. You, of course, understand. Okay, so next part. So we've got the FA, we've got the TA, and now let's get into the sector. Actually, it's just sector, but I like things that rhyme, so therefore you get sectora. What we're going to look at is the Naga Warrants live matrix on the nagawarrants.com/Naga matrix. I'm going to show it to you live right now. So
that's awesome.
this is
awesome,
you.
awesome, very good.
Thank you, thank you. So my mommy tells me. So Naga Warrants by Kenanga, it's our website, nagawarrants.com. And this is the Naga matrix where it's an indicative pricing table that we have. I won't go into the details. I've got plenty of videos up on YouTube on how to use it, but I'm going to show you this one new feature that you might not have noticed. So let's say we've got our sector scanner over here. It's a brand new. We've only launched it recently. And let's say if I'm into something like financial services, all of the Naga warrants on financial services will pop up. For example, AFIN, RCE, MNRB, Insas, AmBank, Hong Leong, Maybank. So everything on that sector will pop up. Same thing if I search it for oil and gas. So let's say I really do believe that Sin Kiat has a great point about upstream, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I want to see really fast. Don't make me do so much work, Isabel. Just tell me the quickest and most efficient way to get this done. So I'll pull up energy and I would see that, all right, what happens is Kenanga has a bunch of warrants. They've got maybe 7 warrants minus the Petron because they, for some reason, they don't want to sell it. Issuer doesn't want to sell it. So whenever issuer is trying to dissuade you from buying it, issuer will push the offer upwards. And if you ask me, the reason this is happening is because this is a very out of money warrant. So let's look at this. You can see that Hibiscus, Heng Yuan, MHB, Dialogue. I'm going to pull it even closer for all of you to have a look. So that's a really quick and dirty way of checking out all the oil and gas warrants. You've got Armada, Hibiscus, Petron M, and as you can see earlier, I was using Dialog as an example over there. So I'm going to cover a bit more of what the matrix actually means,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at it, the different warrants that we had, they will actually follow the underlying. And this really is the one page of why people even bother with structured warrants. Over here, when I showed, let's see, Dialog, for example, was from 188 to 220. That was back in the past. For this example, Dialog itself, if you were trading the underlying, the mother share, as some people call it, you would have made 17%. But if you actually considered the warrants, it would have moved from 1 cent to 3 cents. So this difference in ROI is really the reason that people consider structured warrants. They go through the agony of listening to me speak for hours because of this magic number. End of session. That's all. If this isn't sexy to you, then I don't know what to say. And the thing is about warrants is that it is lower in, if you balance your portfolio, which we cover a bit more into barbell strategy, it doesn't mean that you have to put your entire capital into structured warrants. It is really the concept of putting a very small percentage of your portfolio that offers a kicker or a boost to your entire portfolio. So this, say, for example, 200%, it is not your whole portfolio. It is maybe 5, 10% of your full portfolio in equities. Everybody okay so far? All right, so let's have a look. I'm done with my Fata Sectora session, and I'm going to see what you guys voted for. So I see a few votes on 3, 4, and 5. What was I talking about in 3, 4, and 5? So
Copy.
3 was the question. That was 5. 3 was the question on how do I use the last defense strategy. Number 4 is how do I use the musty strategy. All right. So, 5 and 3. All right. So let's get into last defense strategy really quickly. You see, I prepare all my slides, but you guys want to know this, so I'll give it to you. All right. So last defense strategy. So this strategy I came up with quite some time ago, back in 2020. And the concept is a first in, first out strategy. No, it's the last in, first out strategy. It is a LIFO. So last in, first out means that you wait till the last possible moment to get into a warrant and you get out at the first possible moment, right? For those of you in inventory management or you did a degree in business, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's say we use Dialog as an example. A last in, first out strategy will look something like this, all right? So if, let's zoom in really tight for you guys. Just give me a moment. So let's say a Dialog, when I screenshot this, it's the underlying bid is 225 and the underlying offer is 226, okay? Bid and offer. The warrant Dialog C1E, the warrant's bid price is here and the warrant's offer price is here. 2.5, 3 cents. Would I enter Dialog C1E at this point if I was really, I won't say cheapskate, but I'm from Penang, right? So we're known as being a bit frugal with our cash. So I would get in at the last possible moment, and it would look like I would either want Dialog to move down to 222 or go up to 228 on the bid price. Let me show you that again. So I wanted to go to this last possible moment because you see the gray and white areas. What do you notice? Whenever it's gray, the price remains the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And when it's white, it remains the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means this is a 5-tick warrant. So if I actually entered here, say I bought the offer at 3 cents, I know that when dialogue goes to 229 on a bid, it will immediately be 3 cents. I would have immediately broken even at the next price. Why would I enter over here when it's 225? When I can enter right at the last moment over here, right? You notice it's the exact same price this entire time. Everybody all right? If you're still
Yep.
okay, say okay. If I've totally lost you, please say KO. Okay, so that's a last defense strategy. And so we've got the last in strategy, right? How are we the first one out? So let's say a short TP, just because I want to use the matrix as an example, 239. Okay, let's not use that. Let me use 234 as an example. You will notice that if you bought it at 3 cents, you could exit at 3.5 over here. Rather than, you would know that say dialogue floats around here, 236, 237, there's no difference to you because you would still get 3.5, you would still get 3.5, you would still get 3.5, you would still get 3.5. So you might as well exit when dialogue's 234. Easy? I hope so. All right, so that covers last in, first out, the last defense strategy. I know the strategy has been copied by a few of my competitors, but at least you hear
That's
it
a
from
compliment, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I do feel complimented. Thank you. All right, and finally, let's get to question number 5. I've got some giveaways. We've just got a few questions for you today. Question number 1. I'm going to choose a winner at random. Whoever gets the first ones, we'll go through it tomorrow. My colleague Megan and I. So giveaways. How many tick sensitivity is hibiscus C20? Hibiscus C20. Don't worry, I'll give the answer shortly. How many tick sensitivity is it? Are you guys counting? I see some 4s from Kevin. I see some 3s. I see Captain writing 3. I see Lee Sing Guan writing 3. Ko Sing Kung. Hey, I remember that name. Satya A.K. Dana writing 5.
Let me get my calculator. Give me a second.
This answer is a bit tricky. Let me warn you first, all right? There may be 2 answers. So I'll let you guys try, okay? All right, I'm gonna give you 5 more seconds because I want to sleep. I've got to work tomorrow and the market is booming. 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I see some correct answers. We'll announce the winners tomorrow on our Telegram. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, you know what? I have a slide with the answers. What am I doing? I can see over here, if you count the ticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 3 to 4 ticks. Congratulations, Isabel. I've treated myself to a 50 ringgit Shopee voucher. All right. Next question. Are you guys ready? Last and final question for tonight. Giveaways. Question number 2. If Dialog C1E's exercise price is 1 ringgit and is currently trading at 96 cents, which it is not, I'm just using an example, all right? So relax. This warrant is at the money, out of the money, in the money, or D, costing me money. You just have to write A, B, C, or D. I'll give you guys some time to answer. Satya A.K. Dana, Lo Pek Kyung, Eng Huat. I'm so happy to see good answers, Zo. Ko Li Shi, BC's Lee Seng Guan. All right, so while you guys answer, I'll give you some education as well. Is it bad to buy out of the money warrants? For example, Not necessarily. Just because let me tell you a little secret, right? That a lot of people have this misconception about. They always think that issuers, whenever we put exercise price of RM1, it is not the same as company warrants. For structured warrants, we can put an exercise price of RM1. It doesn't mean that that's our TP of RM1. We put it there because it is a way for us to price a warrants that makes it very at the money and very fast moving and a very attractive absolute price and very low in tick sensitivity. So sometimes you can see warrants that are priced very, very deep out of the money. And it's not because we think that target price, for example, if it's Hang Seng, 17,000, and we put a exercise price of 21,000. It doesn't mean that we think it's going to hit 21,000 or that's our TP. It's just for us to price the warrant into the Black-Scholes model. So anyway, the answer is B, out of the money. Congratulations to the 2 winners. We'll announce them tomorrow. And do remember that we're giving that final giveaway as well, the one over here that I mentioned earlier, that if you write 3 key takeaways on that Facebook page, we will be giving away a bunch of Shopee vouchers as well. If you missed the slides, here it is again. I did cover number 3 and number 5, right? Marvelous. Very good for 15 minutes. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much. Have a great trading day, everybody, and a marvelous Friday ahead.
Ui, sudah Jumat ke?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank God it's Friday soon.
I love every day. I even love Mondays.
All right, I guess that's all for tonight, and I must really thank everyone that spent their night with us, and Sin Kiat himself and Isabel. I think going forward we're gonna bring more to you guys, so stay tuned. And hopefully this format is a bit more fun, yet we learn something, and most importantly, we can make some money from the market. All right. There's one more question.
All right, let me have a quick look.
LMBH warrant issue.
Oh, I'm a very high investor in this particular stock. For CowS, we are very happy to issue warrants whenever there is somebody that requests.
There's a demand, right?
Yeah, there is a demand for it. So maybe for Cow, I know you've asked me this question before. Message me on Telegram, tell me how many units you're willing to buy. If it's sexy and attractive, I'm happy to issue. That's it. We follow market demand.
All right. So for the last question, I think that is there any slide for the oil and gas sector? I think it's quite some work to actually mail everyone the slide, but you can actually tune to our Kenanga YouTube channel. You can click subscribe to that, and we will upload today's session on the YouTube, and you can actually have the replay and replay. So this is a link. Yep. And we will have more of this coming up. And yep, it's 10:07, and I shall not hold Isabel back from her beauty sleep soon. And yep, thank you everyone for joining in tonight. And yes, thanks again, Sin Kiat and Isabel.
A pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, see you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.